views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
As you walk across the mall, feel the wind stir about you. A crescent moon in the sky, and she's there to guide you. And the pounding in your head is there to remind you. The spell's been cast, the spell's been cast. There's a feeling in the air as ancient as the standing stones. You hear voices everywhere, and you know you're not alone. And you'll go to her in the night, for the magic has been spoken, and the claim's been made. The claim's been made. Each knot I make and then untie will stir the wind to fill the sky. Into my looking glass I scry, I see your face, it passes by. Light 9 candles in a row, seeks to make your passion grow. Two to lead you to my door, and one is for the power of the witch's hour. The witch's hour. The witch's hour. The witch's hour. When was this bargain made? Or did you dream it in your sleep? The lady's waiting there, and it's a promise you must keep. For the power that you sought for just one day in your life, she must be repaid, must be repaid. So you walk into her hall, and the shadows surround you. Rising, rising. There's a sweet smell of her scent, and you feel her all around you. Shining, shining. And then you taste her with your lips, and you know the witch has found you. And the time has come. The time has come. Fair am I when first you see, touch my spirit, set me free. In this state you'll come to me, the essence of this mystery. Now the dark one to behold, all the secrets will unfold, reaching from the ages old. Do you feel the power of the witch's hour? The witch's hour. The witch's hour. The witch's hour.
Meet and hail to all. Heed the words I now shall call. Live you must, and let to live. Fairly take and fairly give. Do what thou will if it harms none. By the magic of old, may it be done. Greet the days and greet the night with joy and thanks for all delights. 9 woods in the cauldron go, as above, so below. Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron on the Para X Radio Network. And now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Hey, merry meet everybody, and welcome to Stirring the Cauldron. The opening music tonight was The Hour of the Witch by Spiral Dance, and it's definitely going to be a witchy hour tonight. My guest is Mickie Mueller. Geez, I can't even talk today. And she's an award-winning and critically acclaimed artist and also an ordained pagan minister. She's the writer and illustrator of The Voice of Trees and the illustrator of The Mystical Cats Tarot. And since 2007, she's been a contributor to Llewellyn's popular almanacs and annuals. And she's also the author of The Witch's Mirror, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight. The book looks into the craft and lore and magic of the looking glass. And as always, if any of you have questions or comments for Mickie, please send me a private message in the Para X chat room. And if you're not here, even though the chat room's filling up, there's always room for more. So come join us at www.para-x.com. And we've also got a giveaway tonight. Mickie has generously offered a signed copy of her book, and a fabric bookmark, and a magic mirror. So stay tuned, and we'll be letting you know how you can enter. Mickie, welcome.
Hi, Marla. Thank you so much for having me on Stirring the Cauldron tonight.
Oh, I'm so excited. I read the book, and it's really great, and I'm excited about the giveaway.
You.
And if anybody hears like a wind blower in the background, which is what threw me off in the beginning, that someone down the street or somewhere is either blowing grass or whacking weeds or something, and it's getting pretty loud.
It's that time of year.
It is. And then
spring.
Couple that with the fact that I just got a new pair of glasses like 3 hours ago, and I'm trying to adjust to that. So reading my notes isn't a whole lot of fun either right now. So, you picked a good day. We need some witchcraft here.
Well, let's cast some great witchcraft on this.
We do. I mean, maybe I need a looking glass to cue me or something. But anyway,
we could be communicating through our magic mirrors tonight.
Why didn't I think of that? Or why didn't I just go get glasses tomorrow? I don't know. That's a whole
it's nice to have new glasses, though.
Sure it is.
It'll all work
out. It's nice
out.
to be able to see.
It is. Super important.
Well, I want to start out by saying that this is an amazingly interesting book. I mean, I think mirrors are something that people pretty much take for granted because in our lifetime and for several generations before, they've always been around. But the mirror, as we know it, wasn't always a looking glass. I mean, way back when there was no glass and people weren't able to see themselves easily, they would look into shiny surfaces like things in nature like still pools of water or a piece of polished obsidian. Can you talk a little bit about the history of the mirror? Oh,
yeah, absolutely. It was actually one of the funnest parts of the book to write. I love doing research. I'm kind of a big nerd in that way. So doing the research about the history of mirrors was actually really, really fun. Obviously, the first mirror, of course, would have been a pool of water. The first time that people would see themselves would have been in water, and so that's actually our oldest mirror. Didn't discuss that a lot in the book because it's part of the series, and they wanted to address more of that in the book about cauldrons that would be coming out later on after that. But And of course, when I think of a pool of water, I also think of Lord of the Rings and Galadriel's mirror,
exactly.
which is a great fictional mirror. But the obsidian mirrors go way back, volcanic glass, probably the first scrying mirrors. And they were used a lot for magical purposes as well. It was kind of funny when I first started doing research for this book, and I ended up, finding some different chat strings online, and somebody had asked a question about doing mirror magic, and whether it was a legitimate, magical tool, and I'll never forget it. Somebody had written an answer to them and said, "Oh, well, mirrors aren't that old." And I was like, "Really?"
Was it something
They're
like
not.
6 BC or something? That's how far they go back? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mirrors are really old, but people, like you said, people think of them as being the mirrors that we see today, which are glass, and they're backed with a mixture of metal that includes aluminum and things like that. But yeah, they go way back. Originally, they were not very smooth. They were, a lot of the mirrors were bronze, polished bronze and copper, even silver. And, they would just get them as flat as they could and polish them. And that's what you would use for a mirror, back in, the ancient Roman times up to the Middle Ages.
And they were smaller. They were smaller. Because
they were
of the weight.
Smaller.
Yeah, they were tiny. And, when I read that the other day, I just got a new eyeshadow. And it's like one of those with 4 different colors and then this sliver of a mirror in the case.
Yeah.
And I started to try to even use it. And I thought, oh, my God. If this is like it was back then and people could only see a sliver of themselves, that was kind of strange.
How would they even manage? Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, and, you're right. They were very small. up to the size of like hand mirrors that we have, today. But, you wouldn't get a great big, mirror on your wall, or certainly not a full-length mirror of any kind. But, yeah, they've got some hand mirror sizes, going back to ancient Egypt and Rome, when they were starting to make them out of glass, would have been much later. And again, they were not very flat. They were, you would have a pretty not a very nice view. You kind of have
distorted
to get the view of what you were seeing. It'd be a little distorted because glass making just wasn't where it needed to be. Yeah. It was actually in Venice when they figured out how to make these large flat glass mirrors, and that changed everything.
Yeah, and purposes of mirrors, too. I mean, like, my best guess is that the sole purpose of mirrors in the very beginning was to show people what they look like, basically. I mean, they were simple, like you said, and we said they were small.
Yes.
But then things started to change, and I was doing a little independent research, too, besides the book. And then after I got this little bit, I found it in your book. When I was looking that up, I read about Archimedes' death ray.
Yeah, that was fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it was, to come up with something. Okay, so he was, for those who aren't sure, an ancient Greek mathematician and inventor. And, so he had that kind of mind to make things work. And so the legend goes, or the lore was, that he used an array of mirrors to defend his hometown of Syracuse against the Roman navy. And by using the mirrors to focus the sun rays on a single point, Archimedes' heat beam, I like this, supposedly harnessed enough solar power to set the invading ships on fire and sink them. Now, this is, most people know you can, heat things up with a mirror, a magnifying glass. And in all fairness, the debate continues over whether or not this was actually possible at the time. But I thought it was a clever notion. And it was like, people are now having mirrors and they're looking at different things to do with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, they did. Mythbusters did a whole thing on that. It was really interesting. It was really interesting. But and you're right about that. There's always been some mystery around mirrors. It's and one of the other things that I discovered was that there were some people that I had read some things online where people said, you don't want to do mirror magic because mirror magic can only be used to cause harm. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous. First of all, there's nothing that can only be used to cause harm, And I didn't buy that when I read it because, honestly, I had been working with mirrors for magic for years on my own, back when I was a really, really new witch. And I was recently divorced, and I didn't have a lot of money, and I was coming up with magic on the fly on things that I had around the house, and it just made sense. That you could use a mirror for all kinds of different things when you see what it can do, when you look at, for instance, the definition of what reflection is, it can duplicate an image. So then you could, obviously, you could probably use this to multiply something because you're duplicating it in a symbolic way.
Right.
And then it bounces back light. So therefore, it should magically be able to bounce back energy. And that made sense. And then the other definition for reflection, which I love, is that you can use it as a tool to reflect, like as the way you would reflect on a thought or an idea or meditation. So that's a third really great use for mirrors in magic, is as a tool of self-discovery and looking inside ourselves. So, what a great tool.
Yeah, and, superstition, of course, somewhere along the way came into play. And really neat things that we hear about now. I was finding out things that I had, for example, I had no idea why breaking a mirror brought 7 years bad luck. And I was reading that the reason that is because the soul, which is thought to regenerate every 7 years, shatters when the mirror is broken. And I'm like, I didn't know that.
Right. And the idea is that if you've you were looking in the mirror, you've been reflected in that mirror, you're part of it. So when it shatters, it would shatter your soul, and so that's kind of a scary thing.
Yeah,
and they would warn the young girls, "Oh, don't look in the, don't be too vain. Don't spend all your time looking in the mirror because the devil will come out of the mirror and get you." And some of the superstitions were just, and I think honestly, they just wanted the girls to stop looking in the mirror. I mean, if anybody's ever had a teenage daughter or a teenage son, for that matter,
vanity. Yeah.
Good luck getting them right. They're tapping their foot. They're looking at the hourglass going, "We've really got to go." You look fine. It's time to go, right?
True. I've learned a whole lot in this book. Like I don't know why, I must be a bad witch or something, but I never thought about mirrors having their own deities.
Right? Okay, that's
Shame
something
on
that
me.
I hadn't thought about either until I started researching it, because I didn't realize, and I said to myself, everything's got a deity, If you go back to there's a I don't know his name, so I'm a bad witch too, but there's a Roman deity of hinges. So I'm like, there has to be some deities of mirrors. So and
that was.
What's that?
Jessica Illes would know who the deity of hinges are.
Yes,
just saying. She
would know
things that nobody else knows. Yeah, okay. We'll have to ask
She does.
now.
She's amazing. She's amazing. Yeah, she would know that. So yeah, but that was something that I thought was fascinating, and I actually learned that as I was writing the book. So I didn't know that either. So I don't feel too bad.
I feel bad. And I like the part where some people considered mirrors to be portals to other worlds.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think we all have moments when we don't want to look into a mirror for some reason or another, because. Well, mostly we grew up with being told that ghosts appear in mirrors, or that we could summon Bloody Mary with a chant. And so I think kind of programmed to be sort of afraid of mirrors.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. Oh my
so
gosh, we did that when I was a kid like crazy. We did the Bloody Mary at every sleepover. And just would scare the heck out of ourselves. And yeah, I couldn't walk past the bathroom door with it open with that mirror in the dark for a good week after we'd done that. It would give you a start, but the idea of mirrors as being portals is actually another great magical use for them. I was fascinated when I read about the Victorian psychomantheums that they would make, where they would put a mirror in. They would basically make a room out of black fabric, and you would sit in the room, and they would have the mirror tilted in a really weird position, and then you'd sit in a chair, and the chair would be tilted back, so basically your equilibrium's all thrown off.
Wow.
And the idea was you would sit in this dark room, and you could use that mirror for spirit communication. So the idea of and that was a silver mirror, not a black scrying mirror. But they would, because you would be all surrounded with the dark. It would be situated so all you were seeing was black. So in that way, very similar to scrying. But the idea is that you're actually reaching out and communicating with spirits. And we see it in fiction too. When we talk about like Alice going through the looking glass.
Yes. Yes.
So much fiction. Gosh, The Magicians on Sci-Fi. We actually just finished watching the last episode of that, and they use mirrors quite a bit in that series, and it's just something that we see in fiction, and that's been in folklore for so long. It's really a part of mirror history and mythos.
Mm-hmm. So when did people decide that they would call certain mirrors witch mirrors, for example? I mean, because there's all sorts of purposes. I mean, all different kinds of mirrors that carry things with them. They're concave, they're convex, they're octagonal, they're silver, they're black, they're round, they're oval. But so many to choose from. So many to choose from, depending on their purpose and what we use them for. So did you get into the history also of witch mirrors?
Well, actually, because you can look at the idea of mirrors, like we were talking about the mirror deities, going back to like the magic that they would be performing in ancient Egypt with, Hathor, and mirror would actually be a traditional offering, that they would do for that. So, I mean, in that respect, I suppose you could consider that as possibly a witch mirror. I cannot pronounce, I got to be honest, I wrote about it. I cannot pronounce that name, but there's the Lord of the Smoking Mirror. And that's another one, that goes way, way back. And that was specifically, the idea was there was a black mirror that was used for communicating with this deity. So, the high priests were basically using that for magic as well. But as far as specifically calling it a witch mirror, I don't know if I can give you like a specific year when they would have started using that term. But, we're talking about, at least going back probably as far as the Middle Ages.
I would say so, yeah.
You've got John Dee, who
I was just going to say
working
that.
with, right? Absolutely. Famously, his mirror, which I would love to see in person someday, was that beautiful obsidian mirror, somewhere in England in a museum. I think that would be amazing to see. And Catherine de Medici as well was well known for being, working magic, and they believed, that, and she did a lot of work with magic mirrors as well. So.
Yeah, they're nothing new.
No, definitely.
But sometimes you have to put a label on things, and
we do, yeah.
And that's why we're talking about the witch's mirror now. What are some of the uses for there may be non-pagans listening in that don't have a clue about magical mirrors or what kind of magic we do with them. So, what are some of the uses of magical mirrors?
Well, like I talked about a little bit earlier, just touched on. Basically, you can use magic mirrors to duplicate something magically. You can use it to ward away things that you don't want, reflect away, basically. And you can also use it as a tool for self-improvement, meditation, self-esteem. Magic is great to use mirrors for. One of my favorite that I make a lot is a Hexenspiegel, and that is they're just lovely little mirrors they're usually small and they're portable. So they used to wear mirrors, back when all the ladies wore hats. A lot of times they would have a piece of jewelry with a mirror set in it. They would wear them in their hats and things like this, and different jewelry they would wear around their necks. And the idea is that mirror can reflect away any negative energy away from you that you don't want. The interesting thing about a Hexenspiegel is instead of, the magical energy or negative energy or the evil eye, as some people would like to call it, for whatever reason, we always, everybody, not just witches, we encounter people who are just negative sometimes. And, you feel like you soak those vibes up when you're around negative situations. And the idea behind a Hexenspiegel is it just basically, before it can be delivered to you, bounces it back. So it just stays with whoever sent it, The idea is if you can accept a gift from someone, choose to accept it or choose to not accept a gift, then why can't you choose to not accept something that isn't a very pleasant gift, like some, terribly negative energy? So that's one of the things that I love are the Hexenspiegels. They're great little mirrors. They're very small. If you worked in an office where there was a lot of drama, you could hang one up, and just a very pretty little mirror, and it would look like a beautiful decoration. But It's all about your intention, of course. And you could magically charge that to keep the drama of the heck away from you, so that when you leave at the end of the day, you're not dragging all that home.
Yeah.
That's a really great use for a magic mirror. And I've had lots of people who've used those with really good success.
So
that's a great one.
I had an ex-relative, because it was a married into the family relative who now lives in Morocco, who's British, and got a hold of me. I hadn't talked to him in, way too long, like more years than I'm going to admit to. But anyway, he got a hold of me. He lives in Morocco, and he has this neighbor, and he said Morocco is very famous for witchcraft. And he thought that the neighbor put a curse on him, because all of a sudden his whole household went to pieces. Everybody was fighting and everybody was miserable. And he got a hold of me and he said, "What can I do?" And I told him about getting the mirror and, doing the whole thing. And he has no magic in him at all. He was just desperate for something to do and desperate enough to ask a witch, right? Because some people get to that point. They don't believe it until they really need it, and then we're good.
That's the truth.
So I told him what to do and where to put it and, this and that and the other. And about 2 weeks later, he got a hold of me and he said, oh my God, it worked. And he said, everybody's okay here now. Nobody's arguing anymore. There's a peacefulness in the house. There's a calmness in the house.
Great.
And he was just like, I didn't think he thought it would work. So he was
Isn't that something?
He was flipping out. But, those mirror spells, those quick little mirror spells work so well. And it doesn't need to be this huge mirror. I mean, a Hexenspiegel would do. And,
a Hexenspiegel would do. Absolutely.
It was just amazing. When you hear these stories about people who are desperate but don't normally believe, and then it happens and it works for them, and they realize they don't have to be witches or, whatever. It's really heartening. I mean, it's really neat to see that, because it opens people's minds and things. And I think that's really important. Now, I got a question from the chat room. Tabby wants to know if you think that mirrors can show the images of those who have passed.
They can for some people. Yes, definitely. We talked about a mirror as a portal, and I actually have instructions for making a psychomantium, which is that special kind of Victorian mirror for communicating with someone who's crossed over. And I actually experimented with that when I was writing the book. I like to test these things out, and I dedicated the book to my grandfather, who was a really cool guy. He was a Freemason, and he made mirrors. He ground his own mirrors for telescopes, and so that was kind of neat. And I actually ended up with a mirror that my mother gave me that was from my grandpa's farm when he was young. And I have it hanging up right here in my studio. I'm looking at it right now. Nice. Anyway, when I was working on that spell, I, created the back piece and taped it on and did the whole thing, which you can read in the book. And I did commune with my grandpa, and I could feel him. Now, I did not see him visually, but this is the way. Everybody has a different way of sensing energies.
Right.
So if you're a person who is likely to visually see a spirit, you may be able to see a spirit if you're using a mirror in just the right way. For me, myself, I tend to sense in different ways, and I sensed my grandfather's spirit when I was working with that mirror as a psychomantium, and it was actually pretty cool. It was very nice, wonderful, warm feeling, and it all came back to me. And he's been gone since I was in junior high, so to have that feeling of that person, which I always remember him, but I had forgotten that physical feeling of him being there, and it was actually really, really quite moving. So. Yeah, you definitely can. If you're a person who visually sees visions, you probably could, yeah. I've heard stories of other people visually seeing spirits in mirrors. So, yeah, you definitely can.
Yeah, and they're using it as a portal, and when they're coming through, they will come through in the way that you can accept it, whether it's, if you're feeling, if you're hearing, if you're seeing, but the mirror itself is kind of the portal, right?
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. I will say to that, because mirrors do tend to spook people somewhat. If you're a person who's concerned that you definitely don't want to see a spirit of somebody peeking out at you through a mirror, that's okay. There are ways to manage that. You can physically put your left hand up to the mirror and say, "This mirror is not a portal. Nothing comes through this mirror," because you're the one with the power.
Right.
So it's just like a door or a window. You can open a door or a window, but you also can close a door or a window, and that's okay. You can do that. I also recommend cleaning a mirror with vinegar and water, and I have a recipe for a mirror purification wash in the book that you can use. If you have a mirror that's kind of freaking you out a little bit, spritz some on there, clean it, and physically say, this mirror is clean spiritually. There are no vibes coming through this mirror that I don't want. You can, put it in your own words is fine, but to take that power and realize, this is something I tell people all the time when I was touring with the book and when I sign people's books. The most powerful witch in your life is the one in your own mirror, and that's true. So, as witches, we need to not be afraid of mirrors.
Right.
Because it's just part of the world, A reflection comes from the reflection on water, and it's changed through the ages, and now we make them from glass. But it's nothing to be afraid of, nothing to fear, because witches understand, as practitioners of magic, that we can gain everything by shining a light on that and discovering the power that's there, but not being afraid of it. So knowing that you have the power is everything.
Yeah, and people don't realize that we do. I mean,
It's true.
I think because people, and we all go through this, we're just not sure of ourselves enough to think that we can take it and control it or manipulate it. So, and not in a bad way, not using that word in a bad way.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, you talk about we can make mirrors on our own, but if we buy mirrors, I want you to talk a little bit more about making them in a second, but when we buy them, how does one go about charging and programming a mirror to work for them?
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, there are a lot of different ways that you can do it. One of the ways that I tend to use a lot, I love mirror washes. That's one of my favorite things to do. And basically the idea is that you would take herbs that correspond with your purpose, and I basically brew up a little tea from that. And sorry, my phone's doing a weird thing here. There we go. I brew up a little tea from that and strain it through a coffee strainer so that it's very, very clear and there's no little, bits of herb floating in it. And then you mix it in a spray bottle with some vinegar, and that makes a fantastic mirror wash. And you can spray it on the mirror and put your purpose into it. And the next thing you know, you have a mirror that's charged for your magical purpose.
And then programming it, is that part of what goes into the wash then?
Yeah, that's part of what goes into the wash. But also, basically just using your intention, you can actually just physically, as you're doing the wash on the mirror, you can say, to yourself, this is a mirror that I'm planning to use to help me learn to love myself and to see the best parts of me. And you would you would say that and put your intention into it as you're washing the herbs that correspond with it on there. Another great way to program a mirror for magical purposes, and it's so easy, is you can actually write your intention on a piece of paper and tape it to the back of the mirror.
There you go.
Or yeah, absolutely. Or you can physically write it on the mirror, depending on the setup. Some mirrors have a frame that they're like permanently inside of, but if you have a mirror that you can take out of a frame, I love a paint pen like you would use for glass, and you can just write that. You can write your intention or draw a magical sigil that that symbolizes your intention on the back of the mirror, and that will also help it to hold a charge.
It's easier. I mean, easier than people think.
It's so much easier than people think. We want to overcomplicate things because we feel like, oh, you know, I have to go get the tail feather of a phoenix, and you know,
would that we could, yeah.
Right, I know. I grind it into a powder, and you know, mix it on the night of the full moon, and then under all of these different things. And while, you know, there are some things that we can do to add power, and definitely, you know, going to a little trouble does add power because we put our intention into the work itself. It doesn't have to be hard. It really can be quite simple.
It can be. One thing you were talking about, you mentioned it briefly, was backing images. Now, explain what backing images are and how we do them, use them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's a few different ways that you can use a backing image. You can do something as simple as finding an image that you want that is, you know, basically a symbol of something that you want to generate. Like, say, for instance, you know, I also work with Ogham. And so say you want to make a protection mirror. So you could you could just simply use the symbol of rowan, the rowan Ogham, because it's a protective tree. And it's a really simple symbol to draw. You can Google it, and it will come up, and you can draw that. So if it's something that you are, you know, capable of drawing, you can actually draw the backing image right on the back of the mirror, and that will constantly be there and empower it. If it's something that you're not, you know, maybe you're not artistic and you're not very good at drawing things like that, but you have a symbol that you want to use as a backing, you know, like say one of the Solomon seals, for instance. You can actually print it, and I mean this is Tech Witch 101. You can print it on your printer, and just cut that baby out, hold it in your hand, and look at it, and think about what that symbol means and what you want it to mean, and charge it with your intention. I like to cup it in both hands and fill it with energy. Imagine the energy coming from your chest and flowing down your arms into your hands and filling that sigil or that symbol, whatever it may be, with your energy. And then you have it charged. And you can simply tape it on the back of your mirror. You can put it on there with a glue stick. It doesn't matter how you apply it. If you use a glue stick, though, and this is kind of cool because I do this sometimes, if you're going to use a glue stick to put that on the back of the mirror, you could also sprinkle it with some magical herbs that correspond with your magical purpose.
Oh, there you go.
So if I were making a rowan mirror, I could maybe use, print out here's a thought. I'm going to make a rowan mirror, and this is right off the top of my head. Find a beautiful image of a rowan tree, print that out, draw the rowan symbol on top so you're adding your energy to it, charge it with your hands, imagining the protection of the rowan, and you can even summon up, you know, the energy, the spirit of the rowan tree will fill this with its protective energy. And then you apply your glue stick to the back of that, and if you're lucky enough to have some rowan berries or a little leaves from the rowan tree, you can crumble those up and sprinkle them on the back and then pop that on the back of your mirror. You now have a really powerful protective amulet in the mirror.
Yeah, that's a really great idea.
Really neat way to work with mirrors. And the really neat thing about a backing image is you can then hang the mirror up in your home or your office, and it's just a mirror to everybody else when they come in. You know, it doesn't have to look weird, you know, to anybody else that comes over, you know. But it's the magic is there, and that's what's key.
It's like those secret pentagrams we wear, where the pentagrams on the back of a yeah.
Yes, love those.
Oh, I shouldn't have said. Now people are always going to look suspiciously at what I'm wearing. Oh, let me see the back of that. Which, all right.
I know. Well, if they're listening to your show, they're probably already in the know.
You never know. The other thing in the book that's amazing, and you were talking about on the go, you've got a chapter in the book called Mirror, Mirror on the Go that offers spells that can be done with mirrors without using any kind of mirror prep or tons of other tools, anything else. And I think that's brilliant.
Thank you.
It makes people more liable to try something.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, people worry about, well, like you said, I need the tail feather of the phoenix, I need this, I need that, an eye of Newton, whatever, pinch a toad, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's such a great idea to be able to do that. And there's a lot of spells in there, guys. So, if you're, and it doesn't mean you're being lazy, it means you're being practical. Because I always say, well, maybe I'm a lazy witch because I don't do all the ceremonies, and I kind of do stuff on the fly too. But no, I think practical is a better word than lazy, because
I agree.
We are doing something. Now
we are doing something.
Another thing in the book, you talk about using mirrors as a whole bunch of different things. You can use them as meditation tools. You can use them for astral travel. You can use them for soul fragment retrieval, house blessings, mirror gazing to see your aura. So many different things. But I was fascinated by the ability to see your aura through a mirror. Can you talk on that a little bit?
Oh, yeah. This is so cool. And this is actually something that I learned how to do when I was quite a bit younger. I read about auras when I think I was in middle school. Mm-hmm. And so my friends and I played around with that a little bit when I was quite a bit younger. And then I later on when I found my magical path, I revisited that idea from time to time. But yeah, it's actually not very hard. It takes a little bit of practice, but it's not hard at all. What you really need is a big mirror that's big enough to show your head and shoulders. That little makeup mirror will not work for this.
It doesn't work for much anyway.
Eyeshadow, right?
Not even.
Not even that. You're right. But so what you basically need is a mirror that's like the size of your bathroom mirror. The other thing that you need is you need a white surface behind you, something that's plain. Generally, if you have some kind of crazy wallpaper behind you or something, it's super distracting. Yeah. So you can hang like a sheet up on the wall or even a big piece of paper. Poster board would probably be perfect. You can just, tack up a piece of poster board. I almost said toaster board. Poster board. Or, you can use a little masking tape or that blue painter's tape so that it's low tack and it'll come off easily. It won't damage your wall, but you definitely want that white behind you. So basically what you do is you stand in front of the mirror and you stare at a spot on yourself. You just kind of stare at the same spot. And when you stare for long enough, you will start to see there is an energy field that's around you. And when you're staring long enough in a mirror, you kind of get outside of your own head, so to speak. We're so in, what's on TV? Oh, somebody texted me on my phone. We're so in our heads all the time that when you take that time to just take a break, and you stare into that mirror and you're just focusing on one thing instead of all the multitasking and all of the psychic garbage that is just thrown at us constantly, and you're just taking that moment, just you in the mirror, you will eventually start to just come to a very calm place, and you will see that outline around you, and that's your aura. The more you do it, the better you get at it. I know people who can see auras on people. Somebody can walk into a room and they can literally see an aura, and they'll say, "Oh, what beautiful golden aura that person has."
Right.
It's pretty cool. I am not to that point. I sense auras though, and I sense them in a different way. I feel that one person has a light aura, or I don't see the colors, which is weird. As an artist, you'd think that I would see the colors, but probably because I haven't spent enough time, trying to work on that. But yeah, I can sense them in a different way. That person, that guy, stay away from him. He's got kind of a greasy aura. But this guy over here, his aura is light and fluffy, and or it's cool and soothing. That kind of a way of feeling it. But yeah, you can actually physically see it if you do that, and if you look long enough in the mirror. And it's a pretty cool experiment that anybody can do. You don't have to have, you don't have to have a lot of experience in witchcraft or in working with energy fields. Like, you don't have to be a Reiki master to do that.
Right.
It's a pretty neat thing.
It is. I'm going to find something white and try it, because I'm not real good at seeing auras. Like you, I can read them in a way, but I can't see them. So this would be really, really neat. Now, one more thing that I think is important to talk about is the triangle of manifestation, because that doesn't just go for mirrors, that goes for everything. Everything that we do. So maybe you'd like to explain what that is and how we use it and what we would use it for.
Yeah. Well, the way that I've worked with the triangle of manifestation is just as you would put I don't know if I can explain this. You put your thumbs together, so you've got your thumbs touching each other, and then you're like you would hold your hands out in front of you. Here, let's do it like this. You hold your hands out in front of you and touch your thumbs, thumb to thumb, just the tips, and then you keep all your fingers together. So basically, mittens, not gloves, if that makes sense. And then you bring your two index fingers together at the top. You've created a triangle. Right. And the triangle of manifestation is, let me see if I can remember, it's, I hope I get this right.
You will.
It's space and time and energy, I think. I think that's right.
I do too, yeah.
It's a pop quiz.
Not intentional.
There will be a quiz, kids. So basically the idea is that you could use this formation of your hands as symbolizing those three things, and you hold it over whatever you want to charge. It's a really neat way to channel moonlight energy. It's used in drawing down the moon sometimes, which is something that I like to do when I'm being we don't call it lazy, right? What do we call it again?
Practical.
Practical.
Yes.
On a full moon night when I've been super, super busy and I just don't have time to break out all the lovely accoutrement and set up my fabulous altar with all the stuff, but I still want to work with the moon because I love moon energy. I'll pop outside at night and do that triangle of manifestation, and I hold that up to the moon so that it's in the center, and you feel the moonlight coming down through that, and then I just focus on what I'm asking for that evening. What are my challenges that I'm dealing with this month that I want the moon to intercede or to grant me the wisdom to solve. And I'll do that triangle of manifestation, and it's very powerful. It's a really neat thing to do. And I think I use it in the book, and this is funny, I'm trying to remember. I think I used it in the book for charging a sun mirror, if that's correct. I think that might be what I had used it for in the book. And again, because you have to be so careful with not looking directly at the sun. That's a terrible idea. And so when I was talking about the sun mirrors, I tried to come up with different ways to charge. So I don't, if you can look at the moon through a mirror, that's totally fine. That won't hurt you a bit. But yeah, you don't really want to gaze at the sun ever, and not even through a mirror, because that bright light will really hurt. It could damage your eyes. So yeah, we definitely don't want to do that.
It can. Now,
Yes.
one of the things that I think people need to do at some point, and I'm kind of not going completely off topic, I'm getting to something, working my way there. But
All
you
right.
are quite an extraordinary artist, and you create very lovely things, which can be found at your Etsy store. And I went there. I drooled a lot. I mean, totally. I mean, you have tons and tons of things, and I think, people should go look at your Etsy store. And that's, I went there to look for the Hexenspiegel mirror charms, which sold out like immediately.
Somebody bought 5.
Well, you only made 8, didn't you?
I know. It's terrible. We actually have more supplies on the way. So they should be, more supplies will be arriving. So I'll be making more of those.
Good, because, I mean, I just fell in love with them. I just absolutely looked at them and thought, yeah. And then, not there. But so many other beautiful things there. But that's kind of bringing us to the giveaway that we've been teasing about for a couple of days here and there. And so here's the deal, everybody. Here's how it's going to work. I've posted a banner on my Stirring the Cauldron Facebook page and my Facebook page, my regular page. For those who don't have Facebook, you can go to my website and go to the Stirring the Cauldron page. And that's marlabrooks.com. And you're going to find a banner on the homepage, and it'll let you know how to enter the drawing, which is basically, if you can't go to any of those things, I'll tell you right now. All you have to do is go to my website, go to the contacts page, and send me a note saying, I want in. It's me, that, and I will get that. We're going to have a drawing, at random, put them all in one of my witch hats and draw a name. And it's kind of amazing because Mickie generously is offering a signed copy of her book, The Witch's Mirror, a cloth bookmark to go with it, and what kind of mirror are you sending? Will you be sending?
Yes, I am sending you a mirror too to get you started. These are sweet little button mirrors. They're just little mirrors. They're, I think, 2 inches, and it's got art from the witch's mirror on the back. And it's perfect for putting in a little organza bag and popping into your purse, or you can throw it on your altar if you want. It's it's a great little piece. It's good for all kinds of stuff. You can use to check your makeup or do some mirror magic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's very generous. I mean, the book, guys, I mean, if you don't have it, you really need it. I mean, if you're at the least bit interested in any of this, of magic and anything, because, I mean, it's so much in this little tiny book, and it's not a little tiny book as far as pages go. I mean, there's like 250 pages in the book, but physically, it doesn't take 2 hands to hold. I mean, it won't give you a hernia like some books will. But there is so much in the book that it takes it would take eons to cover here. So if you don't win this giveaway, please go get the book. You need it. And if you do, you're on a head start, because it's absolutely full of stuff. And the lore especially. I mean, some of the lore makes me laugh out loud.
Me too.
When you go digging, you find things that are absolutely like, you think, okay, this is ludicrous, but this is kind of amazing, or who the heck thought of that,
Right.
I mean, there are things that aren't so funny, like you talk about the Chinese longevity symbol on a mirror, in a gold frame serves as protection and goes back to the ancestors, and that part's interesting. I'm just looking right now because there are a couple that just made me laugh out loud, and of course I'm not going to be able to find them in a second.
I know, right? I'm looking to see if there's any funny ones I can find,
because there were. I mean, there were tons of them. And okay, let me see. What's this one? It was about the Torrent. And the blessings for the Torrent. Because, and that's the other thing. Each culture has mirrors. It's not just us, or not just the witchcraft area. I mean, you've got the Bagua and the Feng Shui mirrors. You've got the Indian Torrens mirrors. I mean, everybody has mirrors, and there's some kind of lore and stuff attached to those always.
Yeah, interestingly, cross-culturally, mirrors are magical. It's really kind of cool. It's not like one culture has superstitions and magical beliefs about mirrors and another one doesn't. They all do. Every single one I could find.
Yeah. And that,
amazing.
it's not just a witch thing.
It's not. It's not. Okay, here's one. This will make you laugh. And the lore itself isn't funny, but there's a story around it. A large mirror under your bed facing up is a cure for insomnia, according to folklore. Mm-hmm. And I think I had posted on social media one day that I was having the worst time sleeping, and I was so tired because I didn't sleep well the night before. And a dear friend of mine from high school who had picked up a copy of the book, posted on there and said, "Well, Mickie, you need to put a mirror under your bed." I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're paying attention."
and we overlook the obvious for some reason. Sometimes we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's really
it's totally true. Yeah, I wrote it in the book, but then forgot to use it. So there you go.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I've done things in my book, and then I've actually asked people about something, and but Marla, it's in your book.
Your book, yeah.
I must have, just kind of overlooked it, and it's embarrassing, but it happens. All right. Well, here's one.
Isn't that's part of the reason we write the book, right?
To help others. Yeah. So
to help others, and then we can use it as reference.
They can remind us of our senility or something. Yeah.
Yes to all of that. Oh, I'm so there, sister.
All right. Well, here's another lore for beauty. You charge a round mirror by the full moon and use that mirror when you put on your makeup.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Yes.
I've got to try that one. It might even.
Got to try that one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and here's and superstition. There's an old belief that it's unlucky for the sick to see their reflections. Their soul, being more vulnerable, might become trapped.
Yeah. There's a lot about that too.
I know.
They talk about they would, when someone would pass away, they would cover all the mirrors in the house, and things like that, because they were worried that that either, depending on the culture, either the soul of the departed would be sucked into the mirror, or that they would come back out of the mirror. So depending on the culture, there were different things going on there.
Now we've got like 2 minutes. Wait, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I just keep learning too, more and more stuff. I think actually after I had written the book, I had read something later on about people would, in some places, would bury the dead with a mirror facing down to keep them from rising up out of the grave. So, and that was after I wrote the book. So I was like, darn, that would have been a cool one to put in there.
I know. I read that too somewhere, and I went, whoa, very cool. All right, we've got 2 minutes. So I want you to tell everybody where they can find the book, where they can find you, and how they can find your Etsy store.
Fantastic. Okay, well, you can get the book, The Witch's Mirror, obviously from my Etsy store, but you can also get it from Llewellyn.com. You can get it from Barnes & Noble. You can get it from Amazon. And most of your metaphysical bookstores will carry it. If they don't, tell them they should.
Yep, support our independence, yes.
That's right. All of our great independent bookstores, which we should definitely check out, because you can always get good stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You can find me. I'm on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter. I'm Mickie Mueller on all of those. It's just MICKIE MUELLER. Just search me on any of them, and that's the tag I use on all of those. So,
and the Etsy store is.
And the Etsy store is MickieMuellerStudio.etsy.com.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. We're gonna have to do this again, because there's lots of stuff that we need to cover more.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I've just volunteered you.
Oh, that's wonderful. I have to tell you, I have 2 new projects coming up in the fall.
Okay.
I have Llewellyn's Little Book of Halloween coming out in August, and Magical Dogs Tarot coming out in September.
Good. We're going to talk after the show. All right.
Okay, sounds great.
But thank you for listening. Thank you all for tuning in as well. Enter the giveaway. And until next time, everybody, blessed be and merry meet again. Good night.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Please join us again next week at the same time for another great guest and more cauldron stirring. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2018. The Path of the Goblin King by Kevin MacLeod is licensed through Incompetech.com.